the other area I'd be investing in if I had $1 million.
Yeah, no, this is,
Again, it's so close to the train station.
I think we're going to get started, guys. I'd like to call to order the December 11th, 2023 meeting of the Lowell Historic Board. Before we get onto our first agenda item, I just want to quickly welcome our new board member, Gray Fitzsimmons. Fitzsimons, thank you, who will be taking on Lisa Cassidy's term from the National Park Service. And we're grateful to have you here as part of the team.
thank you.
Thanks. Our first agenda item tonight is application AND-24-01, 17 Rock Street, application for a historic permit by Demetrios Zorbas for demolition of a circa 1950s warehouse and construction of a 9-unit, 3-story residential structure. If the applicant would like to step forward and introduce themselves and make a presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening to all. For the record, my name is John Geary of Geary & Geary, LLP, 32 Church Street, Lowell, Mass. I'm here tonight representing the owner and applicant, Mr. Jim Zorbas. We're here tonight seeking a historic permit for the redevelopment of 17 Rock Street, which is located in the Acre Neighborhood Historic District. Mr. Zorbas is proposing to demolish the existing 1950s-style warehouse building, corrugated steel, ugly building that's there right now, and redevelop that by constructing a 9-unit townhouse condominium project. The townhouses will be 3 stories high, consist of 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, about 1,200 plus square feet, with a garage under and a rooftop deck for in each unit for some outdoor space for the tenants. The development team has worked very closely with Steve and received very valuable input from Steve throughout the design phase. So the plans that we have submitted tonight, which include the renderings, floor plans, elevations, are all with Steve's input, valuable input. The plans also detail the proposed materials that we intend to use on the project. We believe that this proposal meets the design review standards, and we are requesting issuance of the historic permit this evening, but we're happy to answer any questions or address any concerns of the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone here from the public who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Second call? Third call for comments in favor? Hearing none, I'll now open the floor to any member of the public who wishes to speak in opposition. Second call? Third call? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing portion and open it up for board questions and comments.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. I have 2 questions, and it's not in the plans. The plans are, very descriptive and give a great picture of what the property will look like. Just 2 questions I have is, what type of exterior lighting is planned? And then for services like heat pumps and air conditioning, will that be in the front, the back, the roof? How do you envision that?
Yeah.
Jim Zorbas, 33 Fowler Road, Lowell, Mass. So regarding the condensers, they'll all be up top on the roof, kind of in front of the roof decks. That's just to provide a little bit of grass space that we have in the back. And then lighting will be basically just exterior lighting for each unit. Maybe some recessed lights over the garage door and an entry light per unit.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, Carrie.
Hi. I think the plans look great overall. Sorry, I'll wait till the thing goes by. I think it looks great, and we really need housing in Lowell, so thank you for that. My question is about kind of the side with all the garages. Looks a little stark. Is there any way to add some fully, street trees or some kind of greenery around there just to break it up?
So you're referring to the facade of the building?
Yes.
As you see with there's not a lot of space between the garage and the sidewalk and then the street ultimately. We are proposing some planters there, which is about the best we can do in this case. I think that I certainly understand your concern about, the density of the neighborhood, the urban feel there, but there's really not any room for shade trees on a streetscape. By the way, we still, this is our first step in the process. We still have planning board, we have zoning board. The planning board will naturally have some input with regard to the site plan and that process.
Sure. I was just looking at the neighborhood standards for the acre district, which, encourage the planting of shade trees and shrubs. So if there's even a way to get like a couple of shrubs in there,
Yeah.
I understand about the trees. But that's just, I think it would help it fit in a little bit better with the neighborhood and help it improve the neighborhood, which is the
Yeah.
goal of new construction.
And we do generally work with a landscape designer so we can seek input. Happy to do that.
So I like the scale of the project. I think it's well done as far as the articulation and the material sort of palette. Yeah, I think it works well. But yeah, very similar to the comment you just heard. It's like, wow, yeah, it would be nice to have some more greenery and then sort of like a delineation between the actual like sidewalk and the sidewalk and then what's the actual paved area for those driveways. But I sort of get it. You don't have a whole lot of real estate between that.
It's not
Yeah, that street front. But yeah, I definitely like the project, and I think it'd definitely be a huge enhancement to that
Yeah.
area.
Just to follow up, I'm curious about the rear of the building. So,
Yes, I'm just curious about the rear of the building, the rear facade, and the aerial photo does show small amount of green space behind?
Yeah, so the plan is to plant grass in the back. There's not a ton of space. The building angle, the lot angles, but the idea is to put some grass there, as much grass as we can.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Grass, no other plantings, Jim, just grass? Yeah.
Again, that's something we will certainly consult with our landscape designer on. It depends on how much room we have between the building and the plantings, and you don't want to do anything that's going to where the roots are going to be interrupted.
Right. Yeah. What is the distance between the property line and the
Yeah, roughly 10 feet,
Oh.
but it's on a sliding scale to some degree.
Okay. So 10 feet, that's not bad.
Yeah, there may be an opportunity
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
Can you just tell me from one end of the sort of first unit to the other end, like how long of the building? If I'm looking at your plans correctly, it looks like there essentially is going to be a curb cut for the entire length of the front facade. Okay. So how long is that, just out of curiosity?
Give us a minute and we'll give you an answer.
It's roughly 128 to 130 feet, roughly.
And then I guess, again, it's more just like of how this will function in the neighborhood. I also agree. I think that it looks really nice. And the addition of any new housing in the city is an added benefit. And certainly Rock Street looks a little rough around the edges. So this is clearly going to be an improvement to that. But just across the street, there also is not much of an existing sidewalk. And so if you're going to have tandem spaces, just the reversing in and out of the garage for tenants and how that might interact with pedestrians, I'm just I guess less looking for a specific answer and more just like flagging that as a potential concern as pedestrian interactions along that stretch, given the length of how long that curb cut's going to be. And then on your concept 4 page, which shows the front end, there's like a camper or something. So your aerial shows that there is a little bit of a grassy area. And so is that actually your property and there will be a little bit of a buffer between the adjacent property or not? I'm just trying to understand, like, for that tenant at the edge, is there
There's
any
a-
buffer?
There's a paper street between the two properties there.
Okay.
So it hasn't, as far as we know, it hasn't been abandoned. City has not abandoned any rights it has to it at this point anyway.
Do you have any intentions of adding any fencing along your property to kind of shield people from that?
Yeah, we fully intend to add, whatever green space we can and obviously dress it up and make it look nice. And if I can just touch on your comment about the curb cut and sidewalk, and it'll all be poured concrete to the garage door, and I'm sure you've seen that it's a combination of a ramp to a sidewalk combination, so there will be public access from one end to the other.
Thank you.
There is, yeah. Some kind of rough shape. It's very narrow. Let's look at that.
Yeah. Any other comments from the board? Yeah, I share some of Giovanni's concerns about the sidewalk that will be extending in front of all of these garage openings and the potential safety hazard that they may present. I'm not sure, what we can do to warn pedestrians aside from signage, or and it may be more of a city thing than a property owner thing. But
it might also be something that gets attention by the zoning board or the planning board,
yeah,
and the city engineer, I would imagine as well.
right. I mean, I'm guessing right now there's probably not a whole lot of pedestrian traffic along that stretch of rock, but hopefully over time, as we see further improvements, I can see that with its proximity to downtown and some of the local retail establishments, we'll see more and more pedestrian traffic along that stretch. So that's something to think about. But I do appreciate you taking the suggestions of the staff to make some adjustments to the treatments and the colors to add some variation to the facade, so that's not just one monotone
It's
mass. So
terrific to work
that
with.
makes a
He's
big difference in how this looks from
very
this
professional,
along the
very
street.
responsive. It's always a pleasure.
Good to hear.
I also note that David Lee from the Park Service also, had a couple of
Oh, good.
minor questions as well, but, really out the gate, credit to the project team. There wasn't much to address on this out the gate, so it was pretty good. Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's no further comment, I'm happy to entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the project with the conditions as listed in the memorandum.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Congratulations. Good luck,
Very much.
good luck in the project.
Happy holidays to everybody.
Thank you, Steve. All right, the next item on our agenda is item DLHD-24-29, 150 Middlesex Street. This is the Greek Revival and Queen Anne style Hamilton Appleton Corporation School. There's an application for a historic permit from Julio Rodriguez for exterior rehabilitation. If the applicant would like to step forward and make your presentation, I'll hear that now.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Jim Jazokis, architect, Jazokis Architecture Incorporated. I also am a Lowell resident, 58 13th Street, Lowell. And with me is the owner, Julio Rodriguez. So if any questions, we can address them properly. This building has a lot of history. This was originally constructed in 1829 by the Hamilton and Appleton corporations, and this is where Lowell High was started. This building, over the last almost 200 years, has been many, many, many things. It started out as the school, worked its way as, in the basement, it had a beer and meat shop. It had, with the school upstairs, so it was a school for girls. It was a library room. It had Sunday school. It had sewing school. It had recreation and game rooms. And then in the basement again, we also have a new business coming in as a furniture loan service for the poor. And that isn't even out of the 1800s. So then the owners hired Frederick Stickney, and a very famous architect that did a lot of stuff, including the building we're in right now, renovated that whole front. And that's what we see today. And from there, it became a cooking school. It was also a place for the Visiting Nurses Association and the Lowell Council for Girl Scouts. So, and here we are today, and we're turning it into 9, maybe 10, but 9 at the moment, residential apartments. And it's currently under construction with the permits all in place. We just haven't touched really the outside yet. And from working with Stephen Stoll and providing us with all the pictures from the past, we've don't want to mimic, but we want to recreate that same feel and a lot of the details that may have been accidentally destroyed over the years and put back. So this evening, we're looking for approval of those alterations on the outside to make it look more traditional to what was done back in the 1890s by Frederick Stickney. And if you have any questions, we're happy to address them. We're looking for your approval this evening. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor of the application? Second call, third call? I'll ask for any comments in opposition to the proposal. Second call, third call. With that, we'll close the public hearing and open it up for board questions and comments.
So I just have a question regarding the window patterning. I see there's like 2 different patterns along the longer facades, where I think at the bottom it's a little bit more intricate, at the top a little different pattern. I mean, is there a reason for that, or?
Yes. Well, the back portion of the building, the longer portion of the building, was built in 1829, and the front portion was reconstructed in the 1890s. But we would be happy to work with Steve with whatever window pattern is appropriate.
Well, yeah. Are you speaking to the fact that there are 6/6 windows on the second floor and the 12/12 on the bottom floor?
Correct, yeah.
Is that based on the historic documentation, Chief?
Based upon the historic documentation,
Okay.
and what's there, because you have to realize the upper floors where the hall was, and so you had the larger windows up there.
Got
So
it.
the configuration of the sashes is based upon the historic sash that was left.
Got it.
So it's not, it's clearly matching what was there.
Okay. Yeah, it wasn't a criticism. I was just curious because I said, what's the reason for that?
If I may, the principal for the school that was hired, he was very... Yeah, I'm sorry. My name is Julio, and I'm the owner of the building.
Okay.
So the principal of the school that was hired for this school, he was very strict. So one of the things that he did when he designed the building, he wanted to have the first floor higher up, the windows higher up
Okay.
than the second floor. And the reason why was because he didn't want the students looking out to the outside.
Interesting.
All they could see was the wall, not actually the outside.
Smart guy.
I think that was a smart move. Okay. No further comment.
I'll just say I think that we can see along the stretch of Middlesex Street, there's been quite a lot of work. I think this property is on both sides surrounded by significant construction projects, and so it's great to see it coming in front of the board, to see the improvement. I think, just consistent with what we're hoping to see along Middlesex Street is improvements. I just want to clarify that whether it's 9 or 10 that you're looking at rental units, is that correct? Okay. Thank you.
Where are the mechanicals going to go? I don't see them.
Mechanicals will go on the west side of the building between 140 and our building, 140 Middlesex Street. And we actually walked through with Steve. He was very helpful with this, and we chose a location for it. It's not visible by the outside. It's not visible from the front, so we're keeping that whole historical appearance of the building. We don't have any new fixtures or anything, new mechanical. Everything's staying the front as it was.
Your answers to these questions are terrific, and this project is beautiful, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I have a question. I'm looking at pictures of the building today, and it looks like some of the first floor windows have like a metal grate over them. Do you see that as part of the new design, or do you feel you'll be eliminating that?
We will be eliminating those, yes. That's something that the church did before for safety reasons. We're talking about the metal grates over the windows.
Right, yes.
Unfortunately, it's still not the safest part of town. And during construction, it's, how many contractors?
We went through
Three
two
contractors.
plumbers, and different.
Because tools have been growing legs and walking away.
Yeah. Thank you.
I had a couple of questions about materials. The building currently has slate roofs, including a kind of decorative red slate detail on the right-hand side. That's kind of more of a vertical element. It goes around the corner from I guess it's the north to the west side. Is that slate roof being repaired or replaced in kind, or what's the proposal for the new roof?
Replace, and that was actually shingles, wasn't
Yeah, it was a painted wooden shingle.
And the red,
Oh, really?
the red is
Okay.
slate. The red, we are repainting it. So we're keeping the red slate on the front.
Yeah, this portion here that's red slate, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's being repaired.
That's been repaired. So
And-
we're trying to find, authentic red slate. It's been used that we can use and not use anything used kind of matches the rest. So
Mhm. But the gray slate roofs are the gray slate on the main roofs and on the porch roof in front. Again, is that being replaced or repaired?
No,
No, just the gray Vermont gray slate.
That's going to be replaced, I believe. That's going to be replaced. We can-
With new slate or?
Yeah, we can
we have it.
figure out the options. When we did the Holy Trinity let's see, on Lewis Street, the Greek Orthodox Church, and the Shed Hoyt Estate, we ripped the slate all off, ice and water shield the whole thing, and put all the slate back up, and it worked out great. It's a 100-year roof.
Right.
Slate is 100
Yep.
years. You can't, once it's 100 years, can't patchwork it. There's no tar that can fix it, so you have to pull it all back down, put it all back up,
Right.
and then you get it for another 100 years.
hmm
But yeah, we can discuss that.
And it looks like the Greek revival section in back has like a diamond-shaped slate. Isn't that true? At least from the street view I saw from the side, it looked like it had a distinctive diamond shape that was kind of it's unusual for slate. I don't typically see that. So I was just hoping that you were intending to replace that in kind for the elements that needed to be repaired. Is that the case? Or
Yeah, we can discuss that.
okay,
Yeah.
just a detail.
Right.
It's I mean, for me that roofing is very a critical piece of the character of that building, and so to the extent that it can be preserved or replicated in kind, I think we'd like to see that. And then, sorry, go
I
ahead.
just wonder, this is my first board meeting, so I think we're only really restricted to the exteriors. Is that correct, Steve? I did have a question, though, for you, Mr. Rodriguez. In the foyer inside, have you given any thought to a little historic display?
Yes, we're leaving a carved out in the sheet rock with lighting, so that we can use some of the historical pictures that we have with the history on the bottom, and we're gonna do the same thing going up the stairs. So people can walk up the stairs and see the different pictures.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
And we're keeping the whole foyer as is. We're not destroying any of the woodwork that's in there right now. We're keeping everything as is.
Great.
Mr. Rodriguez doesn't know this yet, but his building marker is already written for the property. So he's going to get a housewarming gift from the historic board when the project's finished.
I wondered if you found any artifacts in the building during all the work you've done.
We haven't. I wish maybe the demo guys did. I kept asking, but there's a lot of history in that building.
Mhm. Mm-hmm. And then just quickly on the cupola, it looks like you're going to be introducing a venting system. Is that a replication of a historic detail?
It was a vent there originally. It was a cupola was meant to vent, and we discovered that
Right.
out there.
Mhm.
So it's going to be replicated.
Okay.
It will serve as venting again.
And what
There'll still be louvers there. Yeah.
Right. And what material are you proposing for that detail? Do you know?
PVC, I think.
AZAC of some sort.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's an area that's difficult to access for maintenance, so I can see why you'd want something that's doesn't require regular painting or attention. So, I think it's at a height that you really wouldn't discern the difference between the AZAC material and a more historically appropriate material. Okay. Yeah, I'm excited to see this property coming back to life. And as we already mentioned, there was the project next door. I remember we approved that a few years ago, and I know that's in process. So this is just another one in the line of excellent revitalization efforts happening on that street. So great to see this. If there are no further comments or questions, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the historic permit for the exterior rehabilitation of 150 Middlesex Street in the downtown Lowell Historic District, conditional upon the noted conditions as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Good luck in the project.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that does it for the public agenda items for tonight. We have other business. Steve, you just wanted to give us a quick update on the SAW building. That's something we haven't heard about for a while.
Well, what is in there is what is the update. Everything else is kind of in the law department and don't want to get too much into depth.
Okay.
Other than they've received the up-to-date fine totals, and there's incentive to move that project or that property along.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay. Let's hope for the best on that one. Anything else you wanted to note of particular from the various report items?
Under the projects and project review, one thing that is definitely jumping out is that we're running 6 months ahead of the last fiscal year in terms of applications and review, which is phenomenal. Wow. So we didn't hit this number of applications until probably May of preceding fiscal year. So that's not bad. And also the consultations and, that does not include design review post-hearing, like with these people.
Yeah.
This is people, how do I do this? How can you help me? Can we have site visits? And, sometimes it's a few times the meet, and that's fine, working with the folks. So, that's hitting around 168 of those right now. Let me see.
Well, to that end, I want to make sure that folks have seen the new flow chart that has been developed that I think will really do a lot to improve people's understanding of what the process is. It's
Good luck with all this stuff.
been we've had someone redo it with an eye for design, and I think it's going to be a great tool for us moving forward. It's available in paper as well as a site on the or page on the website.
It was interesting because this is the fact sheet. Well, the fact sheet we've had for years, and it looks fine. The information's all there. And when I got this to the designer, it was like a flow chart. Here's a few examples. Show me what you have, and then comes back with a completely reimagined fact sheet too, which was amazing. So that's out now, and it's been provided to a couple of people proposing projects, and and I even provided it to Mass Historical Commission, their local government people, and they thought it looked fine. Yeah, so they have it, and people that see it seem to think it's pretty good. So.
Did you hear?
Another thing I'll pass around is Wednesday is the 40th anniversary of the board's legislation passing. So we're kicking off kind of a 40th year. And so this is what's going to be unveiled on Wednesday. Jeffrey's only going to see it.
A sneak peek.
So the designer of the original historic board logo, I said, I want something simple. Throw a 4 in front of it and whatever.
Yeah.
So basically, the dates are 84 to 2024 because it could say 83 to 23, but it would be like we're doing something in February or March with a logo that's dated from, and since the board's first meeting was February of 84, we kind of just decided let's go with that date range. The 4 is sort of mimics some of the engraving look of the logo, of the board logo, and also it sort of has this textile weave mill feel to it, like it's woven. So that was kind of the thought on that as well. So that'll go up on Wednesday, on the date of that, and then with notes that, throughout the year there'll be certain things popping up from time to time, whether it be testimonials, events, things like that. So tied into that is a follow-up with George's idea from several months ago. I think you recall we had a conversation about reports and things to the public and things like that. So there's the fiscal year and then there's the calendar year. And fiscal years confuse the public sometimes, I think. So there's going to be, and we still have to submit one to the state for the fiscal year, so forth. That always happens. But sometime mid-January-ish, late January, we'll have a 2023 historic board annual report. But it's going to look, I've already engaging a different designer on that. I'm lining up next week photographs with about 7 or 8 people in front of their projects. And you'll see that when it's done, the projects are reflective of both the diversity of projects and type and the diversity of people as well. So that'll be a nice, and there'll be a lot of, graphic like numbers. Did you know last year right now, when you look at the numbers, it's, where are we at right now? Numbers wise, well, for 23 we're a little over 25 million in projects, and then certain, so we'll have that in there as well. So the annual report will hit some of the highlights. We'll have, we're probably going to be doing District 5 signage, the Greek mural over on Market Street, Leo Montero wrapping up 80 Gorham Street. Julio's going to be in it. with his building and a few other things like that. Mona from Tyree, we're going to do the Black History marker with her, and I'm going to draft Kerry and Troy to be in it too. So. Well, Kerry has been on the master plan, Lowell Forward kind of steering committee, and Troy's on the community preservation committee. So figured, why not on that? So, hopefully we'll have something, 4 pages, nothing huge volume of material, but 4 pages, graphically interesting, and that'll go out digitally and so forth as part of the 40th as well. So I figured that, and credit George for saying, hey, we should do an annual report for the public.
Steve, have you been here all 40 years?
29 of them. But yes, I was at, well, no.
I was going to suggest that we have photos of Steve through the ages.
I will send out again the photo of me when I was hired by the board in front of the big red wheel in Shattuck Street with more hair and a darker beard. Anyway, Bicentennial Committee continues to move along. The Facebook page, it said 8485. It's now 8491 as of this afternoon. So we're approaching 8,500 on that. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have. Both of these projects were great to work with those folks on. And, we haven't done anything with Jim Zokos in a while, so it was nice to see him come back in. And the architect for 17 Rock Street was great to work with. Again, minimal input. It was just, can you put some windows on the end elevations? Can you make sure each unit had the doorway and areas above, but then there were other elements that were blank. And so, no, we need to have more penetration here to make the facade less solid, and did that. And, again, final colors and whatnot still need to be looked at. But the idea is every unit repeats every third or so that, it's not just one monotone building. Like you're coming up to your own house, that type of a thing.
You don't want to go with the teal and white stripe like the warehouse.
Wow, that's there as an homage.
Well, we could do some metal paneling if you'd like. Anyway, but welcome to Gray too. I've known Gray for a bunch of years. Were you working at Park Service when I was there too?
No, I came after you.
Yeah, okay. So Gray was the historian at the national park, and currently is doing a lot of work with Back Central, working with someone I've worked with closely before, Marie Frank at the university, on various projects and lectures in her class. But but nice to have you aboard. I mean, we miss Lisa, welcome. But it's nice having you come in. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully we won't have any quorum issues for quite a while. You're squeaking in it through there a few times lately, but
Yeah.
Well, that's all the more reason why I've stated before that it's important to have max quorum, because if you get down to the edge and there's a couple of people, if you may have issues, 5 people by statute have to vote in the affirmative. So it was, that last one was a little tight, but we got through it.
I'm looking forward to meeting Deb at a future meeting too. That's great. Great.
That's all I have.
All right. Anything else?
I have something. So Steve, did you get my email asking about Baker? Mm-hmm. So Historical Society folks asked me to put forward just kind of a is there nothing we can do? Is there any door we haven't tried? Is there any person it feels like we're getting to the point where we're giving up on this building. And people aren't happy about that.
There's been meetings. I can tell you that back this spring, Dave Fuller, myself, David Lieb, Peter Osella went through the building, and it takes a lot for us to be shocked, but it was pretty dire in there. David Lieb produced a report that I can get you that talked about conditions, talked about what it would take to even abate the building and demolish the building, which would not be which would not be an easy thing to do. There's been responses to the council, I believe, that you want
Yeah, so I think the only realistic option that remains that I don't believe has been undertaken is an RFP with zero restrictions about use. I think there were previous efforts to solicit requests for proposals on the building, which stipulated uses that impacted renovations to the interior and what people could ultimately use the building for, which I think made the numbers really difficult. And so I think, we'd have to understand what, if any, restrictions on what could happen on the interior of it. But I think at this point, the only thing that we haven't tried is just straight up, like, you tell us what you think you could do to that building with zero restrictions from the city side. That being said, just reiterating what Steve mentioned, it's rough. And given what we know for what we've been seeing for construction costs in a post-COVID world, it's even more dire, I think. So I think, it's a gorgeous building, and it, is sad to see the state of it. But realistically, financially, unless like buckets of money fall out of the sky or somebody very wealthy is willing to throw a lot of money at it, I think the future of that building is really uncertain. And I think from the municipality side, it's the volume of funds that would need to be contributed to that project at this point is frankly so overwhelming that when we weigh it against other priorities, it becomes increasingly difficult to think about pouring that level of money into one building. So, I think that was one of the things we said in the motion response, which is we can kind of throw it out into the world and see if anybody's interested, given what we've been seeing on municipal projects, not just for construction, but actually even just interest. We've been getting more projects recently that have had no responses than frankly I've seen, and I think it has been a lot of people are seeing that across a lot of our projects. So it's not like a closed door, but I think it's getting very close, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it feels like we missed a lot of exit ramps here by looking for something, by letting the perfect be the enemy of the good. And I don't think that's anyone's fault in this room at all. People made decisions with the best of intentions, and, it hasn't had a good outcome, but it doesn't mean that they didn't have good intentions or they weren't trying to do their best for the city. But I just don't want to, if there's any exit ramp left, I don't want to go by it without at least, doing anything we can to save anything we can.
Aurora, what I will get you is David Lieb's analysis of the building, which was quite extensive based upon we were in there for about an hour or so. I'll get you that, and also the most recent council response. But David's report is very illuminating.
So is he a structural engineer to do the structural analysis?
No, he was just looking at it from an architectural perspective and based upon his public and private sector experiences in these types of buildings.
Are there some structural problems with the building?
Yes. The fire department won't go in there. It's been marked as not something that they should enter. There is a concern with the balcony area, in particular. We did have folks go into, our asset manager had folks go in to assess whether or not abatement companies would be comfortable even abating it. And so that's, we got some mixed feedback on that. Some folks felt like they felt like they could do some abatement work without needing to structurally shore up things. But I think we'd, before anything like that happened, would actually need to engage the services of somebody to actually ensure the structural integrity enough before any level of demolition, frankly, was allowed. So any information that we do have, I think, is probably dated enough that we'd need to revisit that at this point. But there are concerns just based on what we know for the sort of consistent deterioration that's been just visually witnessed, and the degradation of the roof structure, the infill of water that has significantly impacted things, and it's been consistently kind of taken a nosedive that we can see at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say too, that's just so frustrating because if this was owned by a private owner, we would be really mad at them. You know, we would be, if a private business owner had allowed their building to deteriorate that way, we would have been, you know, on them. So it's tough that, like, in some ways the city gets to, like, the city doesn't have that level of, you know, the fact that it's falling apart because of water damage is something that could have been avoided. On the other hand, I completely understand how we ended up here, and it's not because nobody cared. It's just because everything's so expensive, and it's really hard for the city to focus on something like this when they have so many other urgent problems. I do wonder if there's any lessons we could learn for other buildings that the city's holding on to that maybe we should get out of our hands.
Art space and community space is really hard to fund, and we shouldn't hang our hat on that, is the lesson that I learned out of this.
It's interesting. Troy and I first met when he was working with CBA on some early architecturals for their project over there. And I mean, what was it like in 2016 when you were in there, Troy? I mean,
So, I mean, we had done a full assessment. We, hired all the consultants, structural, you name it, and, ran different cost estimates. And back then it was about $15 million actually to bring that place up to where it's decent. And we have we program community space in the bottom and and even ran some pro formas, but numbers didn't work. You're right. It just didn't work. The type of tenants you'll get in there and the type of rents and stuff, it never panned out, but it was in rough shape even back then. It really was. And so it was like one of those things, whoever's going to do that project needed to start really doing it back then, maybe into 2017. But it's interesting because, I could only imagine if nothing was done since that time. Yeah, it's really in dire straits. And maybe now you're talking about close to $40 million, honestly, like close to $40 million to really restore it.
Close to a number that the National Park architect had in there.
Yeah, but it's a beautiful building. I mean, I totally get it. That building is really gorgeous. It's really gorgeous. And I mean, it is a shame that nothing can be done, but who knows? There's always someone with deep pockets who just, may want to do something. It is a long shot. Yes, it is. I work with big developers, deep pockets, but even in this climate, they're holding their purse strings pretty tight. And the program in that building would have to make sense as well. Honestly, it would have to make sense. But yeah, I mean, if you guys need any of that, the information I have will be outdated, of course. It wouldn't be helpful. But yeah.
It will be a huge loss to the city historically, on par, maybe even more significant than St. Peter's demolition.
one hopes that if that's ultimately what happens in terms of the scope of work for the demolition and revolving around all the safety and structural issues there, and it's a little bit solace in this that we would try to get salvage on some of the materials in there and the plaque on the church and have that incorporated into any sort of redevelopment of the site. The stained glass is valuable to someone. The organ's valuable to someone. That's all salvage value that a demo contractor is going to put into their equations and pro formas anyway.
Yeah, I mean, to me, nothing else. It really is a reminder of how vital the work we do is and how important it is to say yes. The building that was before us today is another really beautiful building with so much history. And there's definitely an alternate timeline where, we're like standing on some sort of dumb persnickety point and not letting that get built. So it feels really good that we are finding ways to move forward with these historic buildings and bring them back to life. And I think, as we can see, if something can go from vaguely possible to totally impossible in, really just 7 years, it does show that we need to say yes and we need to let things move.
Is reuse of large former institutional buildings like the church very, very difficult. Because, for example, if you're going to be looking at federal or state historic tax credits for rehabilitation, okay, they consider the interior large spaces, the volume of space, as character-defining features. And so it really eliminates sometimes a lot of the use of that credit, because you'll have someone want to come in and want to turn it into apartments or something, but they won't be able to get the tax credit because the tax credit people say, no, you've got to keep the large space. So it's a double-edged sword. I mean, usually the best reuse of a large formerly institutional church is another assembly use. And as we know, it's like you said, you can't hang your hat on. Exactly. Do is I will circulate to everyone the report from David Lieb, so you can all see that, as well as that council motion, just so you can see what other people have seen internally on that. So, okay.
I guess we really have no power over this whatsoever. I do just want to express that I hope if there's any possibility to save anything, that we do whatever we can.
I motion to adjourn.
Second.
Almost all the time. Nice job.